All right, everybody. I think we may have one or two more people jump on in a little bit, but I think we'll go ahead and start. Anyway, if at any point in time, if anyone has questions, try to use the hand function on the on Zoom here because I'm going full screen right in here, so I want to really look at the presentation. So there's some functions in Zoom I'm still learning even after all these years. So bear with me, and obviously unmute yourself and holler if you need to speak up real quick. But other than that, I'd like to welcome everybody. Hope you're all doing well, and we'll be going through some topics on here. Just as a reminder to what NEBRA is and what we're doing at this point in time, and then we'll talk about the fee structures from USAC for a year. USAC has a new promoter portal, and Justin Evans from USAC is on the call. He's our new essentially Northeast coordinator. Has sort of been reborn now after years of being dormant. So Justin will be available for any questions anybody has on that. Talk about the calendar real quick. Pretty much got everything except for a few things that'll be coming down the pipe shortly. But other than that, we're pretty confident that we have a pretty decent and full calendar for this year. Then we'll have Shaun and Alissa Weigand on the call talking about officials. And then got some new resources available both from USAC and from us as well. And we'll talk about we did a rider survey a few months ago and got some pretty good data on that, which we'll show. And then last we'll show some trends for basically 22 and 23, sort of the post-COVID era and how things are looking for us. So I know most of you on the call are long time involvement. So this is probably old and not new and stuff like that. But basically, NEBRA, the New England Bike Racing Association, this is a port vehicle for all of you race directors in order to have your events, and we're here to support you for whatever you might need as far as resources and other things to make sure that you have quality events and get as many people as you can possibly get. So this is what we do. It's also a support vehicle for racing in New England. So we there's a seven-person board, and we meet every month to discuss things and see how the season is going, and to see what we might need to do in order to help you folks improve your quality of events here. Mostly competitive, but also we have some non-competitive events as well, which are very popular nowadays. So that's beginning to come onto the fold as well. So we do want to support your events as well. Especially trying to make sure that we keep the conflicts to a minimum, which I think we've pretty much done this year. So again, so what we actually do is that maintaining the calendar of events, and that's been expanded over the last year or two to show a lot of events that some people might not know about. If you go through Bike Ridge, there are a lot of events which essentially run on their own. They're not USAC sanctioned, and there's some that are just local events, and some that are very popular. So want to take the time to recognize those events, and that some of our base do those events from time to time. They are competitive events. We try to keep the calendar mostly competitive events, but there are some other stuff as well, some support rides and charity rides and things like that, which we do want to draw attention to. especially since some of our base will be wanting to go to those events. So again, documentation for and support for race promoters and race directors. We have best practices guides and how we assign officials and how to put together your event, especially for newbies. A lot of people again here are experienced, so they know how to do this stuff already. But we do want to encourage folks to get into race promotion because we definitely we have a good amount of events, but there are people that are going to be retiring over the next few years, and we need some more folks to basically fill out from the bottom up. So we also have some grant programs available, especially for those of you that are trying to alleviate potentially high costs when it comes to either officials or permitting agencies and things like that. We do offer both grant programs and bridge loans that promoters need some immediate cash. We can do that for them, and we also assign the state and regional championships, and obviously the officials for all the competitive events that we have here in New England. So to get to the nitty-gritty here, this is what the USAC fee structure looks like this year. There's not a lot of changes, but there are a few significant ones that I will highlight here. First and foremost is that the road race permits fees have been lowered from $135 to $95 by USAC. So that is a little bit of a cost savings for everybody. Also, mountain bike permits are also down to the $95 level. And you can see everything else pretty much status quo. And there's a few pages on here, so we'll just screen through these real quick here. Now, unfortunately, there are some increases, and it's just very much by nature of the business nowadays. For those of you with smaller events now that may, some of the training races, there is the minimum amount of the insurance costs that are paid to USAC has gone up to $300 now. So, and if you see the rider surcharge per day has gone up basically to $6. So that's essentially 50 riders that you're essentially paying for. And then everything else, goes on to the $6 per system. Now, one thing I will note on this, which I'll show on the next slide over here, is that there has been an increase in coverage. Now, for some people, for what it's worth, it's gone up from 3 to 4 million now. So some of you I know need to take out extras because some of your agencies want more than 3 million. I know I have one of my venues also requires 5 million, so I have to get the higher coverage for that. But so we'll talk about that in the next little slide over there. But essentially, you can see the umbrella insurance basically is one set policy now because of the higher coverages. We're able to take a level off of the umbrella coverage for folks. And so not a lot of changes there, but a few increases here and there. And if anybody has any questions on this stuff, I believe Justin is on the call, so you can chime in and ask Justin about anything that you might want. Again, just a summary here: road race permits are down to 95. The Grand Fondos, so all the gravel rides and all that stuff is up to 135. The surcharge is now $6 per rider. And I just show the increase in the next slide. The special endorsement, sometimes the entity will want a special endorsement on a certificate of insurance. That's gone up from $75 to $100 now. And the umbrella coverage increases to 5 and 7 million there. So you have up to 7 million at your disposal should you need it. And then again, there's the explanation of the insurance coverage real quick. it was 1 and 3. Now it's 2 and 4 with a $3 million umbrella should you need it. Any questions on that stuff? Again, you can unmute yourself or raise your hand or do whatever you need to do if you have any questions, and either myself or Justin, who's on the call, can chime in.
Well, since it's quiet for a second, Alan, I'll just introduce myself first.
Okay, sure, Justin.
Don't know me. So I'm Justin Evans. I'm the event services manager for the East Coast. So what I have replaced Matt, who, if you didn't know, moved over into a marketing role within USA Cycling. So he's actually the event services marketing manager, I think is what his roundabout title is. So he ultimately went from supporting you guys directly on the ground to supporting you from Colorado Springs by creating marketing resources for us. So if you've seen the new Race Director Resource Hub online, so if you go to USA Cycling and then plan your event, that entire page was actually kind of created and spearheaded by Matt. So he's gone from helping you just in this area to helping all of us across the country. And then just about myself, I was with USA Cycling basically since May of 2016, a short little layoff around COVID, a short layoff middle of last year. But I am very well in tune with the world of USA Cycling. I am a mountain bike international commissaire, so I get to work with the UCI quite often, get to work with a lot of higher level events around the country as well. So it's kind of just a natural fit. And I reside in Asheville, North Carolina. So just right down 995 from you guys.
Wake up last night?
Hey, John, looks like you're unmuted there.
I just muted now, so he's down there. So Justin, what I have on the screen right now, I trust you guys are seeing it, is basically the new website, which is the new events resources section that Justin was just talking about here. So if you go, check out the website over here. USAC has a whole bunch of stuff in here, including a full-fledged marketing plan, which you can put together, and also there's an offer there for USAC to do some marketing for you. You can sign up for that, and they're offering a single paid social campaign for race directors this year. So again, go check out the website. There's a nice little section here on marketing the event. You can obviously look at a PDF or go through this, but pretty well. It's got a bunch of good content on here. Again, especially for those road directors that are looking to try to market your event to new riders, I think this is going to be a good resource for you.
Yeah, and I would even go as far as saying that whether it's a new event or an event that's gone on for 15 straight years, I don't think it matters. I think we've seen a pretty good buy-in from that program. It's no cost. It's included in the permit fee, and it's something that we pay for. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a win-win. The more riders you get, the more riders we get. So it's a win-win on both sides. So highly suggest you look into that. And if you need some more information, just let me know. And my contact is super easy. So my first name is Justin, last name is Evans. So my email is jevans, JEVANS @usacycling.org. So if you just send me an email or send Alan an email, you can always get in touch with me. It's pretty easy, super responsive. And yeah, the marketing platform or the marketing resources is, I think, a huge benefit.
All right. Any comments or questions from anybody? We're still getting people in here.
I don't know if it was on your schedule, Alan, but the umbrella for those that do need it, I heard you mention that it's just a standard cost across the board now without regard to spectator count, but that is just a flat $1,950. It used to be a scale based on the number of participants and spectators, but it is now just a standardized $1,950 for the increase of $3 million to take it from a 2.4 to a 5.7 policy. No, it's right there at the bottom. Perfect.
Yeah. So
Are there resources available for the umbrella coverage on like what the policy looks like and what it covers somewhat easily?
So that is the umbrella is just an extension of the standard liability policy. So it doesn't add anything additional except for the coverage limits. But that is
Okay.
all on. I should be able to drop this in chat here.
So does it cover spectators, alcohol, things like that?
It is the alcohol is always an exclusion unless an alcohol certificate is purchased additionally, which is not just a standard cost. Why is this? Oh, because I'm on my Mac.
Yeah, Brian, I think that goes under the and Justin, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that goes under the ancillary, correct?
Correct. There's the ancillary coverage.
Yeah, so I know that for events that have events that are having like bouncy houses and stuff like that, or alcohol or anything that's not usual to a bike race, that'd be a good idea to look into that.
Actually, I just got the updated summary for the ancillary coverage. So let me get this. Trish sent it to us yesterday, actually, or Friday. So I will drop this in chat as well, so you can download the PDF. I'm sure it's online somewhere, but I'm just going to upload the PDF real quick, just so you all have it.
And I'll be copying all the chat notes before I conclude the call today. So I will have we'll post that on the NEBRA website. So any links that we're sharing for today will be available afterwards. And also, this as you can see, this is recording too. So we plan on posting this on our YouTube channel. So there'll be multiple different ways of getting those links to people. All right. Anybody any questions for Justin as far as USAC and the fees and insurance and all that?
There was one, I would say, probably significant change that's more on the rider side. It's not really to do with the events level, but for those of you that were familiar with the the Ride Plus membership, any of the Race Plus, International Plus, the Plus specific coverage was a medical policy that you could have bought in 2023 for basically $50. It was a $50 add-on to the cost of any license. That was a primary medical coverage for the riders that saw a really good uptake. We tried to sell the crap out of it because it was such a great product, but it had such a great uptake from the rider base that, and with an uptick in the number of claims, insurance had I believe it was a 400% increase on their premiums to us. So it went from I believe a $50 add-on to like a $210 add-on for the cost of the Plus membership. So if anybody mentions why did this go up at one of your races, that's why. It's not USAC trying to make more money. It's not anything to do with any of it. It's just the cost of the premium exceeded about a 400% increase. So then we had to somehow pass that along where possible and try to keep it as low as possible. But I would say that was probably the most significant increase, where the cost of the license and ride memberships did stay the same from year to year.
Okay. There he is.
This is my little man, Landon. He works from home with me during the week, so he likes to hop on video calls sometimes.
All right. So if there's no other questions for Justin, we talked about the resource page. Did you have anything that you may want to add to that as far as that page goes, or everything we talked about already?
No, I don't think so. It's a great resource, whether you've been around for a year or 21 years. I would highly suggest just kind of clicking through it. And if there's any resource that you see that you or that you don't see, more importantly, that you'd like added, let me know and I'll get it with Matt and he can start working on that. But we've seen a pretty good response rate on that new resource, where a lot of our promoters are really enjoying the fact that we've got just this one-stop shop on resources. While, as everybody knows, we can't produce a how to put on a bike race guide for liability issues, it's about as close as you can get from start to finish.
Okay. All right. Well, Justin, thanks again for being on the call. you're welcome to stick around as long as you want. But I think we'll go move on to the race calendar section here, unless anybody has a question real quick.
I'll hang out for another 5 or 10 minutes and then I'll hop
Okay.
off.
Okay. All right. So as for the race calendar, we basically have it on in sort of two different sources. We've been able to utilize the Google Calendar, and basically it automates every day based on the changes that we make. I'm pretty much doing the maintenance on that, but anytime we find another event that should go into the calendar, we'll add it, or everybody updates their information. That will be input onto that, as well as we have a PDF which has a lot more information as far as contacts and stuff like that. The Google Calendar does tend to get a little bit limited. So let me see if I can bring. So this is what this looks like here. This is the Google Calendar here, and you can see that events, all the events that we have been populated through here. And then this is also the PDF of the calendar, which I'll try to blow up a little bit. And you can see it has a lot more information to it as far as locations of things and contact information, things like that. So this can be definitely a source for folks to look up and see where races are and when they're happening. And so thanks to Tim, who's a member of the board here, for helping to automate this process here and putting this together, because this is I think a good addition to the website. Let me just okay. So let's go on to officials. So again, our NEBRA has Shaun, Alissa, Weigand, who do the official assignments for all of the permanent events for the season. So Shaun, if you want to go ahead and start your chat there, and
sure.
When you want me to change pages.
Yep, you can hear me, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So hello, everybody. Good to see you all again. It's been a long winter. Just going to go through the steps that we do for assigning officials here in New England. This hasn't changed much in the last 5 years since we've been doing it, but it's always a good idea to go through it as a reminder and see if anything pops up and how the process happens, and if anybody has any comments or questions. So what we do is we work off of the NEBRA calendar and some other sources, and I'll touch on that in a minute towards the end about what those sources are and how you can sort of help us to make sure that we're getting all the information that we need. But generally, we try to do a few like a month or two at a time for the races once we're aware that they're happening and available. We load them into an assignment tool, which is a website that officials use for both requesting assignments and for us to actually give them notification. We load the races into that. We send out requests for submissions. We have a Google group through NEBRA that we communicate with and say, hey, these races are out there. Everybody put your submissions in and tell us what you can or cannot work by a certain date for this particular group. Once we do that, we'll make the assignments and we'll email out to the chief referee and the race director as sort of an introduction. You've probably received that email. Tells you who the chief ref is, gives you the introduction, how to contact each other, and then generally the chief ref takes over from there, starts communicating with you as a race director and working through any issues. As things happen, life comes up and we somebody can't make it or anything like that, we work with the chief ref to get a replacement and things like that, and we just rinse and repeat that all season long for all the different road, cross, and mountain bike as well. There are certain mountain bike events that in 2023 USAC decided that they wanted us to take on at the LA level, assigning mountain bike races. So that was the first year for us to be doing that. And there's a little bit of a slightly different process in that, but generally the same. Okay, now go ahead. So there are things that we consider for assignments. Once you submit your request in the assignment tool, we only consider officials that make the submissions. If an official doesn't put in for it, we're not going to consider them for that assignment unless there's a special circumstance where we don't have enough and we have to go asking for people. But generally that's the process we do. It's how we keep track of everything. So we want to make sure that we're not just I can work anything, and we're just not going to pick somebody. If they're not in there, we can't communicate that way. So we do get requests from race directors for certain officials to work their events or certain officials to not work their events, quite frankly. And we take that information and we do our best to try to accommodate in those situations. The bottom line on that is if you do have a request, get the request into us early so that we can take it into account. It's much more difficult to make an adjustment once we've already made an assignment. So please, if you do have special requests for your event, make sure you get them to us. And we've had good luck with that in the past. With that communication, we take into account the overall experience level of the officials. How long have they been doing it? What level of category are they for the different types of levels of events? We do put some restrictions on that. We're not going to assign a C official to be the chief ref of Killington or Green Mountain Stage Race. That wouldn't be fair to Gary nor to any of the officials on the crew. But we do take that stuff into consideration when we can. The overall compatibility of the crew. We want to make sure that everybody can work well together, as well as working with the chief ref and the event itself. Travel distance to the event. This one sometimes can be tricky. We live in New England. There's 6 states, and I don't know the exact numbers, but it's lots of miles between southwestern Connecticut and northeastern Maine. And we have events all around in between. Depending on who's available, travel distance is a thing for us here in New England over multiple states, and we do what we can to try to minimize that when possible. Sometimes it's just not possible because we don't have folks available, and we have to, they have to travel farther, and unfortunately, that generally falls on the race director as they have to cover the cost of travel. Filling in crews at multiple races per weekend or per day per weekend. This is something that NEBRA works hard at to work with everybody on the calendar to make sure that there aren't conflicts. But sometimes there are some in southwestern Connecticut and northeastern New England on the same day, and there's one weekend that generally sometimes has 3, and we try our best to cover all of those different events with crews. We have officials that want to work towards their upgrades, as in with racers, there's different levels and you have to do certain things to upgrade your official's license. So we try to put maybe less experienced officials in a bigger event, so that they will get the experience and training that they need from the other officials so that they can work towards upgrading their licenses. Anybody who demonstrates efforts toward professional growth, right? They really want to become a better official and work on their skills and things like that. And we want to try to give them the opportunities to do that. And that comes into the part of it. The total number of assignments per official per season. We're trying not to overwork our officials when we can. We'll see some numbers on that in a bit. But if there's somebody that really wants to work an event, but they've only worked 3 events all year, and there's somebody that's been working 20 events, then we're going to try to give that person that only had 3 the opportunity if we can work it out. Next up. If they have a history of cancellations, some officials, we know life happens, but if we can't rely on them, consistently being available when they say they're going to be available and backing out at the last minute, then, we do take that in consideration the next time we're looking for someone for a particular event, and we need to make sure that doesn't become a problem. So we sort of track that. A willingness to work different positions. Hey, I got into this to be a motor ref. ref, right? I'd love to be a motor ref in every road race event and only have to do that. But the bottom line is we need chief refs, we need chief judges, we need comms and cars, all the different positions. We need people. So we need to make sure that, people are willing to do that, and the folks that are willing to move around and do different things and help out where needed. We try to help them out the next time when something comes up that we know that they really want to do. And matching positions needed with the positions requested. Again, we have certain positions that need to happen, and we need people to fill them. So we try to get folks to do what they might not necessarily want to do, but we know they're fully capable of doing it and they can do it. So, hey, if you take one for the team, we'll try to make it up on another event, and give you something that you really wanted next time. And another thing we do take into account, which is becoming tougher and tougher these days with the lower numbers of officials available, is LA versus non-LA officials. Certainly, we're in New England. In any NEBRA event, we're going to give priority to a NEBRA-based official when we're considering, but we do get a lot of requests. We're close enough to New York and Connecticut, to New York and New Jersey and Pennsylvania are close enough by that sometimes we get requests for events from non-NEBRA officials, and we've even had them come up from Maryland, from MABRA, and from other places to work some of our bigger events. And we'll try to we'll always give a local official the priority, but we do want to encourage folks to come from elsewhere if we can make it all work and not be too burdensome of a cost. Next. So we've got some numbers here that we have pulled together every year, between Alan and Chris Constantino, who runs our assignment tool. We've got some info here. Working official numbers from 22 to 23, they're very similar for ground officials. Motor official pool has continued to decrease since 2019. We've been losing more and more motor refs. Part of it, there's several reasons for that. Some of it is age, some of it is outside interests, other things come up, and quite frankly, some of it is that we, had been losing road races, and there's less. We don't need motor refs for cross races, and there's things like that. So that's part of it. Understaffing is for 23 and 24 is down a little bit from 22, but it's also it's a little bit more subjective in that you have to look at the reasonings for individual events and things like that. But crews were leaner in 22 because they had significantly lower attendance than estimated. So we tried to go on the smaller crew sizes, but in 23 that's come back up a bit. So now we probably should have had additional resources and officials at particular events, but we kept them at the 22 level, for a number of reasons. One of them being some of them we just couldn't get enough officials to work on that particular day. So these are the numbers here, the numbers of working officials. You can see the bottom of the first group there is that we had 14 officials come from outside NEBRA. Some of that was the bigger stage races. We were able to pull in folks who really wanted to do that, and hats off to Gary Kessler, who was willing to work with us on that, to be able to allow folks to come from farther away and fill the spots, and work out deals on what we could pay for them for mileage and things like that. Understaffed races in 23, it was only 14% based on the standards. But again, it's a little bit of something that we have to look at closely each year. Working number of officials, it says that only 50% of the motor officials worked of what we have, 58%, sorry. And we've got one that worked 5 races or more, and we have 6 of them that worked less than 3 races, so 1 or 2. We have 4 that did not work. That also is a little bit of you have to kind of look at them individually. But yeah, we had 4 that didn't have any races this year. Go ahead, Alan. So we do have some NEBRA suggested crew sizes at competitive events. There's the full list of the info available that you can take a look at. It's on the NEBRA site under race director information there. And as you can see that where Alan's going. Essentially it lays it out for the different levels of cyclocross, road races, circuit races, and crits, and mountain bike races as well, depending on the different levels, the different sizes of the crews, what we expect to be a minimum number of officials, and so on. I'm not going to run through all of that. You can do that on your own, but there is one piece at the top that we just want to make sure that everybody's clear on, and that is if you have specific needs or desires or you're planning on using club officials or you have other concerns, you need to work with us all during the calendar and permitting process. Once we make an assignment, we're not going to cut a crew just because it's a cost-saving measure for you and your numbers are necessarily low. Officiating crews are assigned to provide adequate coverage for the event, and to cut them down solely for financial reasons has a severe impact on running the event. Even though you have fewer riders, you still need certain things covered, and we need to be able to make sure that our crews are adequate to be able to do that for you and your riders. Back to the PowerPoint there, Alan. Okay. And was there one more? Okay. So before he gets to that, so one of the things that I'm going to ask that you guys can do that can really help us sort of get out ahead of making sure that we're getting the races into our system, and that we're getting crews, asking for crews to put in and getting them assigned in a timely manner, so that we're not sending you who the chief ref is 2 weeks before the event. That's a little later than we want to do. We want to get you that info at least a month ahead. 6 weeks is better. So whenever we can do that. And one of the things is when you make your permit submission to USAC, as soon as you get that permit number, whether it's approved or not, as soon as you have that number, if you can make sure that it's on your bike reg page, where you put in your USAC permit number, because we've got data that pulls out of there twice a week and notifies us, that lets us know that there's a new event in New England that has a USAC permit number, and that's all I need to be able to get started on my process to be able to put that in and get it rolling.
And obviously the other benefit obviously to that is that it invokes the electronic waivers on bike reg. You have to have the permit doesn't necessarily have to be approved. As soon as you put it in for it, you get a permit number assigned, and if it matches up with the USAC database, then it opens up the electronic waivers for you. So obviously, those are the 2 main reasons you should be doing that.
Yeah, you can even do that before you even hit submit. You can basically just start the permit as a listing and put your name in there, and it'll translate through.
Yeah, and the behind the scenes part of that also is that when USAC sees a NEBRA permit, they put me on as the chief ref so that I can do the processing, and then we switch it over after we make the assignment and send that email to you. It's all part of that process. So again, anything you can do to get that on the bike reg spot where it asks for it helps you as soon as it can for the waivers, and it helps us to make sure that we know that your event is happening, you're planning to do it, and you've gotten at least that far in the process. So with that, I'll open it up to certainly any questions. We'll be on the rest of the time here, and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Shaun. And any questions for Shaun? Again, you can unmute or do the hand raise or whatever. Okay. All right. So anyway, thank you, Shaun, for that. That's some great information for there. Oops, let me go. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and hop off. So appreciate it.
Thanks, Justin.
Anything, let me know, guys. Have a good day.
Yeah. And then Justin put his contact information in the chat, so everybody can copy that down there if they want to do that. Again, we talked about this just before the resources. You know, the new event organizer portal that USA Cycling is put together, which has a good write up on marketing event, and also a link to you can sign up for a free social media campaign. So we've gone over that, so we can go on to the next one. So anyway, this section is basically just highlighting some of the things that NEBRA offers that can benefit you as far as putting on your events. And since we talked about officials with Shaun just a little bit ago, we do have a program to try to get new officials on board. And this is sort of when Shaun talked about, you know, getting some club officials. This is sort of an extension of that. So, you know, obviously, you know, club officials can help you out as far as your costs and all that. But if they do a little bit more, if they maybe work a couple more events maybe outside of the club, you know, we can help them with the fees that are incurred from officiating. So just to run through this real quick. USAC has been covering the official license fee for a new beginner licensee, which I think is $35 for the first year for club members who become a new official. So that's, like you said, if you have the members of your club that would like to help out at the race and they want to get the license, you know, event directors can and also club presidents can also indicate in their accounts who is a race official for the club, and then USAC will cover the license fee for that first year. Now, where NEBRA comes in is that if they work at least 3 races a year, including 1 non-club race, NEBRA will continue to cover the license fee for an additional 2 years. So that's 3 years total. Now, again, providing that they put in or they work at least 3 events, 1 not being their own club race. So this, you know, this is basically helps you the event directors out with getting more officials and closer to home, so you can help with the travel costs, and also gets our as officials stock roll up, so we can bring more people and use people less. So the more people, the more officials that we have, the less they have to work, and we don't burn out anybody. So you know, there's been documented cases in the past where folks have worked maybe 30, 40 race days, and all of a sudden 2 years later they're disappearing from the face of the earth because they're tired and they have other things that they want to do. So so this is a program that NEBRA has. So again, you know, we're always available here to contact. You can contact us directly. You know, my email is aatwood@nebra.us. If you have any questions about this or have any people that might be interested in doing this, certainly let me know, and I can forward it on to the appropriate folks as well, including Shaun. And of course, in the summary, recruit officials through your club, and they'll save you money, and then NEBRA will save them money, which is the whole idea for the program. Now, in addition, this year, this is something that came up late last year, which was a philanthropic effort from a gentleman, I believe, from the ties to the Minimum Road Club, that I wanted to help out, you know, New England race promoters putting on true road races. One stat which kind of is a little bit of alarming, but if you exclude the stage races, we had, and I'm not talking about circuit races, I'm obviously not talking about crits, we had a grand total of 2 road races in 2023, which you know, I won't even call it the floor because that floor is essentially concrete. I don't think you get any lower than that. So, us and the board have been talking a lot about what we can do to facilitate folks to put on events, and then all of a sudden this came along. So, Ron Jacobs, are you on the call? Do you want to unmute yourself? And
Yes, I am.
okay, so Ron's been very active in working with on the philanthropic end to get this program rolling. So, Ron, you want to discuss a few details, and the floor is yours for however long you need it.
Sure. Thanks, Alan. Hello, everyone. I know many of you, but not all of you. I'm at the end of my first year as a new board member. I've been racing a long time, continue to be an active masters racer, but this end of things is all new to me. I continue to learn a lot, every meeting, every call. I joined the board to try to help support and foster racing in New England generally, but in particular road racing. So I'm especially excited to announce this initiative. I can't take credit for it, but I'm excited to announce it. It is called the John Reagan NEBRA Road Race Support Fund. It was established through the unsolicited generosity of John. John was a longtime road racer, as Alan said, for Minuteman Road Club. And John donated $20,000 to NEBRA to establish this fund, this program. What is its mission? It's to capitalize a fund to provide a potential financial safety net for race directors who, on a race-by-race basis, satisfy the criteria that have been set up, which are all based on reasonableness, if you ask me. They do all the right things, but they nonetheless fail to break even financially in running the race. And this fund will cover shortfalls of up to $3,000 per race in the discretion of the NEBRA board, who will be, it was the board who will be administering the program. The criteria which Alan has listed here are minimal. There are a couple of deadlines. The first deadline is that the event has to be posted through the well-established channels at least 8 weeks prior to the event. A reasonable fee has to be charged. We don't want a race director charging an unduly low fee or an unduly high fee. We'll be using the market for similar races and other things provided as part of a race in assessing the reasonableness of the entry fee. Reasonable prize list must be provided. It can be cash, it can be merchandise, it can be other non-cash prizes. And we do encourage charging higher entry fees for the fields for which a cash prize will be offered. The second deadline is if a race director wants to avail him or herself of this program, they must within 60 days of the event, submit some manner of financials that allow us to assess the reasonableness of their conduct in putting on the race. And that's it. So you got to have the race up 8 weeks prior or more, and you have to submit for reimbursement within 60 days after the event. And this program applies to any non-criterium event with criterium as defined by USA Cycling. I hope you don't need to take advantage of this program, but it's there if you do. And the obvious hope is to relieve some of the financial pressure in putting on a race. No one should ever lose any money putting on a road race. So we hope that this helps to alleviate some of that. Hope it keeps you all on as race directors in the future and attracts either new or former race directors to come back and put on the road races that we sorely need in New England. So with that, we can try to answer any questions. There will be a link, well, there isn't a link now that's available on the website if you want to read word by word the requirements, but the summary you see here is a fair one. Thanks, Alan.
All right, thank you, Ron. And I'm just gonna showing everybody on the website the link here, and we also have the the BDF, supporting, they're documenting the mission of the program and all the criteria that Ron just posted. Any questions? Okay, so we'll move on here. Again, Ron, thank you very much. I'm excited about this particular program. This was as Ron mentioned, it was an unsolicited gift from Mr. Weigand, and let's hope that we can use this to benefit and get more road races on the calendar. We all know it. It's, road races are probably one of the most difficult to put on and one of the most labor intensive. Believe me, I know. I've run a few of them in my day. But hopefully, if this can encourage even one or two more people to put on a road race, the fun will have been worth it put together.
Spread the word.
Yep. So also another resource that we have available, and especially for the newer promoters, is that we have some best practices documents available on the NEBRA website. And this is nebra.us for, obviously you can see the links right there. And they highlight a lot of things that go on. I'll just, so I won't take all day in working on it, but I'll just do some summaries here. And if Brian, if you're on the call too, if I've forgotten anything, just feel free to jump in at any point in time. So it talks about budgeting being, putting a budget together is a really important thing, because we see this a lot, that especially newer promoters, they put on an event and they lose money and they're shell shocked. They're like, why did this happen? And so, putting a budget together can really show you what what you're going to have to get as far as revenues in order to not have to essentially pay money out of your pocket. So or in some cases hitting the club for some resources that could be used for other things. So if you know ahead of time what you have to get, it's a lot easier to go out there and go get it. Many races undervalue themselves. This sort of starts the argument of, well, a lot of people want to see lower race fees, but the value that they're getting sort of exceeds those race fees. So something to think about as far as, well, if you're putting on like a picnic afterwards, then you should charge a little bit more, because you've provided some more value. And then we talk, like I said, talk about realistic aspects of a budget. Trying to find out ahead of time how much your police and medical are going to cost, how much the timing going to cost. The officials, we can always give you some sort of an idea based on other races in previous years, but we never know for sure, because the officials are mainly paid based on mileage to and from the event, which varies a lot from race to race. A lot of race directors lament the fact that everybody registers last minute. So there's a couple of things you can look at there. One is possibly offering early registration discounts. Some groups will offer like a 15-20% discount for early registration. And then, the last 2 weeks, it sort of goes up to where, it normally would be. One thing to look at too, and I know, this can be a lot of talk about this, is looking at your no refund policy. A lot of people, take that word for word and say, well, what if something happens, or, if something comes up, personally, and I can't make the event, or I get sick, or if it rains. I hate racing, rains and the crits and rain and stuff like that. There's most race directors are willing to review people's requests for refunds. And if that's the case, and that gets to be more of a trend, that, refunds can be, done on a case-to-case basis, there's likely that there's going to be earlier registrations, and you'll be able to get some of the cash that you'll need to pay your expenses ahead of time. Like, some people have to obviously permit fees and stuff like that, and if there's any pre-charges that you have to put on, that can help pay for that. So it's just something that you consider. Bottom line here is, if one doesn't charge enough to cover the projected expenses, the event is at risk of losing money, and we don't want you to do that. We want to help you as much as possible to be able to not go into the red, for what it's worth here. And some more recommendations here. Block pricing. Again, sort of stepping up the fees, offering or discounts early on. And the one thing that we see sometimes is that people sort of tend to look at the registration 2 to 3 weeks out and like, oh my God, where is everybody? And there's no way I'm going to be able to pay for this event. Well, this is where this comes in handy. And this is an example from my race the last couple of years. You can see even like 10 days out, are like 25% or less of my registrations coming to that point, and then all of a sudden it jumps up big time. This is I can say this is a pretty consistent graph for most events. Now, there's some events that are really super popular and a lot of people register for ahead of time. It'll sort of look the other way, where everybody registers up front and then sort of weans out at the end. But for most competitive events, this is what you're looking at. So pretty much what I could say is trust the curve, because this will happen. People will sign up. So you don't need to be overly. You don't need to 2 weeks out saying, okay, I only got 30 riders. Nothing's going to happen. I'm going to cancel. Try not to do that. All right. Whenever you're canceling, if you're thinking about canceling and you want to talk to somebody about it, talk to us about it. Talk to myself. Talk to anyone on the board here. We're all willing to work with you as far as it's like let's settle down and show you what's gonna happen, and hopefully next year this won't be such a stressful process for you. So anyway, but there are there's a whole section on the website for best practices, and a whole resource section for event directors on NEBRA.us. So definitely check that out. There's a lot of good information on there, and of course you can always ping us with any questions that you might have. So let's see. Okay, so let's go over. Okay, so any questions that people might have at this point? And I know there's people that are putting up in the chat, and we're trying to respond to best we can on there. But
I have
yeah.
This is
Sure,
Richard.
Go ahead.
I feel like I've been watching this frog slowly boil in the beaker for 10 years now. And I'd be willing to hop on a subgroup committee to sort of look at what do they do in Canada, what do they do in Europe, where there's a stronger club-based system. Like if, way back when I raced in Europe, a club applied to do a race and they were going to bring the guys and gals. And it stabilized things a little bit. And some people have more experience, some people have less experience. But I think this is a challenging problem that's going to not get better. And I'd be happy to sit on a call and just sort of look at best practices from other federations where there is success. So just putting that out there.
Yeah, no, and Richard, good point, and that is that's as you know well enough, USAC used to require that an active club be a part of every single event, and that was relaxed about, I'd say, about 10 years ago, and you can see what damage it's done. It's gone more down to the single race director model, which basically has, and the perfect example is myself. I mean, I have a firm of 3, me, myself, and I. And I run 4 events during the course of the year. But they're in places where I don't need a lot of resources in order to make these things happen. So if I were to try to put on a road race, I would the first thing I'm going to do is go try to get a club or two to be behind me to provide that support that you need for those type of labor intensive events. So yeah, so Richard, let's talk about that, and you know how to get a hold of me and vice versa.
Yep.
So we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Yep. And thanks for that. So anybody else? Okay, so this section here, we put out a survey late last year, looking for some trends from riders and seeing what they're doing and not doing. And for the most part, this first one here, so we were asking them if they were actively involved in racing. For the most part, they were. And then the question is, so if not, why were you not involved? And basically it comes down to mostly interest, mostly health concerns, some aspects, competitiveness, and there's some other things involved as well. So, but for the most part, people are racing, which is a good thing. We've seen I think pretty much a comeback, if you will, from the year and a half that we lost to COVID. Maybe not as many people as we'd like, but we still have a lot of active racers here. And we also asked them, would they consider a return to racing? And for the most part, they were either positive or maybe they would. Where there's a small percentage of folks that were probably not going to race anymore. Now that we kind of know that trend is more towards people that are now have a lot more non-competitive events available to, whether it be rides or gravel grinders or long distance brevets and stuff like that. That were not the case pre-pandemic, but it's so the people are here. So and so if you're thinking that the folks are not there, they're there. They just we just need to be able to reach them, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Now this is I have to admit that this graph is sort of a little heavy on the cyclocross, given the fact that we were doing this in the fall. But what I was looking at here is we're seeing the age groups of as far as experience levels, the newbies up to the people that are racing for 20 plus years, and what they were doing. Again, this was done in the fall, so there's a lot of heaviness towards cyclocross, but also you can see that road racing did get some significant hits as well. So that's a little bit encouraging, I think, in the fact that people are wanting to do more long distance road races. Again, we just got to see if we can find some people willing to put on those events. But this I think was an encouraging sign here. And we also asked the question of folks, what could NEBRA do to incentivize racing? And obviously the number one factor was entry fees. And again, we talked about this before. Jed, okay, go ahead and unmute yourself, Jed, if you want to.
Yeah, I just had a question. How large was this data set?
About 250, I believe, roughly, about plus or minus 10. Tim, I think that's about right, if you know it offhand. But yeah, it's about 250 riders, I think, participated in the survey.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and so again, that's always been a balance between people don't want to spend a lot of money in entry fees, but again, sometimes they're needed in order to put on events that people want to do. So it's sort of a back and forth. Other things they were talking about were scheduling. Scheduling, for the most part, is that having the races closer to home, within like maybe a 90 minutes or 2 minute or 2 hour distance from where they are, and also being part of a series, which I think is an interesting dynamic in that we could very easily have a series of common events put together as a series, and it's actually got me thinking. I'm for myself this year. I've got at least two of my car track events at Lime Rock and Thompson on board, and I've got a preliminary approval on Palmer as well, and I'm still working on trying to talk to the folks in New Hampshire Motor Speedway. So perhaps if I can get those 4 events and then they're in a fairly tight calendar window, you're not all over the place during the season, maybe I can make a series out of it. And so if people are interested in that, then perhaps that can help me draw a few more riders to my events. So that's something to consider as far as maybe talking to your fellow event directors to see if you can get together and promote some type of series. I know that the Miles, who was put on the Guilford gravel grinder for the past few years, is teamed up with a couple other events this year and is doing a gravel trifecta this year. One in April, one in June, and one in August. So again, teaming together with other events to try to promote their events together, and I think that's a great idea. Anyway, so you can see this over here. Other stuff obviously was prizes and specific events, whether it be road or criteriums. Age graded racing, whether it's junior or masters, things like that. These other graphs here are basically coming from data from Bike Reg over the last 2 years, and so we looked at, obviously this is basically everything post pandemic. Number of events sanctioned and unsanctioned by discipline. You can see that overwhelmingly, the criteriums, which are in a lot of cases are training races also, that kind of fell into the criterion fold because they all tend to be like shorter course races. And then mountain bike is also gaining traction again. So we're seeing a lot of people participate in the mountain bike races as well. A lot of gravel events also are taking shape to where cyclocross is sort of coming down a little bit. You have the lower numbers for road racing and track and fondos and circuit races and things like that. So interesting. So this kind of shows your more popular disciplines over the last couple of years. Participation by age bracket. Again, you're seeing that a lot of juniors are participating in cross and mountain bike. So again, that's that's something where perhaps we can go to maybe someone wants to go to a mountain bike event and promote their road event and say, hey, we're having all these junior categories, come on out and come play with us, and that could be something that could help out your numbers. Gravel events as well. It looks like this is 22, this is 23, and there's not much of a change here. A little bit less on cyclocross, a little bit more on gravel for the masters. They're doing gravel events and cyclocross more often than not. So this is, and again, all these, we'll have this. I'll PDF all this stuff and make it available on the website for those of you that want to comb through this in a little more detail and review it later. But again, showing the trends over the last couple of years. Pre-registration entries by discipline over the course of the last 2 years. Again, just showing that gravel events, mountain bike events, cyclocross, super popular now. Criteria including training events, also in that aspect as well. And this is we talked about entry fees before, and I know that a lot of people are like, look, we need to lower the cost of entry fees for everybody. But if you look at this over the last couple of years, some of the least expensive events have been essentially criterium and circuit races. Those events that we mostly do on a regular basis. There's the road awning category that's pretty much all collegiate racing. But even road races are, you see, at the $60 level compared to Vondos, which are and gravel events, which are charging a lot more to participate in. So I think this speaks to maybe again, we talked before about undervaluating your event. So I believe that especially for some of these events that could be charging a little more if they need the money. Again, we don't need to be making too much of a profit here, but also we want to make sure that events are not coming in at a loss. So again, so anyway, so for the
Alan, one sec. So
sure,
sorry if I missed that, but does that, like the criterion specifically, if you go back to that, does that include training races, or does that exclude like weekday series?
For the most part, all the training races are generally coming into the criterion fold because of the format of the races. So yeah, so again, there's no real distinction in bike reg if it's a training race or not. So one thing I could potentially do, and I'd be willing to do this if people want to see it after the fact, is sort of break that up into training races and regular criterium events. So because I think generally I think people are getting $40 or $45 for a regular criterium, where the training races are a little bit less because they're mostly from the local area. But I'd have to go in and go look at the massage the data there, which I'm more than willing to do if people want to, if there's interest out there and people want to look at that.
I'm happy to help with that as well.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So just some recaps on the graphs there. We're getting some new blood in here, which is good. Let's hope that they're sticking with it. The entry fees are still a concern, but again, a couple items to that. If you have a budget for your event, then you can see what you're going to need and possibly know what you're going to be able to or should charge in order to meet those budgets. And combining events to encourage participation, that's always going to help out as well. So again, like I said, all these graphs and stuff like that will be we'll post that on the website, on the NEBRA website for those of you who want to review it in more detail. And of course, you can always ping me with any questions that you might have. So so my apologies for not looking through the chat too much. I know that some people are helping me out with the answer here, so I'm just going to go through and look at some of the chat stuff here. Constitute's new first-year license, yeah, to some degree, Richard. Also, there can be someone that could be someone that had been racing before, but not at the USAC, not the USAC level, and are trying this for the first time. That could. There's always a give or take with those, but generally, yeah, it's the people that have not been racing full time for the most part. So let's see. Again, let me try to. All right. It occurs to me that so I'm looking at Josh's post here. Other list of former promoters. Perhaps that's something I might be able to ping Colin on if he would be willing to send me some more data on, like, contacts for race directors, like, pre-COVID and stuff like that.
No, it's more about former races. So historically, was there a road race, around the Quabbin, which I know used to exist, but what were those races and why did they end?
Well, they ended. There was a number of different things. They ended because it got too expensive to run in some cases. In some cases, the number of participants couldn't basically pay the bills. And in some cases, the promoters just couldn't put in the work anymore. And because it's a lot of work to put on a road race, especially
So it's that last
courses. So yeah.
It's that last bit that, we have new promoters, maybe there's more interest, so maybe the race can come back. It's not, a town hated it and fought against the race, or, the roadway.
Yeah, for the most part, you're correct. I mean, I'm sure there are one or two cases where, some stuff happened like it did with Gloucester that the town just didn't want it to happen anymore. But for the most part, yeah, you're right. Is that it's not from the entities, the landowners and stuff like that, not wanting that to happen. So Matt Stewart, are you still on the call?
I am.
All right, you have a question, Al. So
Well, the thing that we're still looking at here, Al, I think is still we're doing COVID recovery. Because even at the club level, even on our group rides, we're starting to see people starting to come back we haven't seen in a while. And a lot of that was due to COVID. And I think we're still in the rebuilding phase, for lack of a better term. But I do agree with the fact that the guys have been talking about with the road races here. One of the difficulties is having enough bodies to do it. And because the USAC got rid of, hey, the club has to put on an event every year, the clubs got smaller. And you've got these elite teams out here that don't put on races, which, I understand, but it does make it difficult. I have to combine with 4 other clubs just to put on the Frozen Four.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what we've been talking about. Is even with the criteriums or the series races, it's still a good amount of manpower that doesn't exist right now, and you sort of have to get it, and the more the merrier. But I get frustrated from time to time that there's a number of people. Oh, that's great. Let's put on more road races. But then when you ask them to do it, they sort of kind of wither off there because some people just don't want to put in the time. So yeah, but I'm glad you mentioned that, Matt. Even at the training race level, you're still trying to find a lot of bodies to help you put on the race because it's an effort just by yourself. I mean, the 3 events that I put on, that's I'm blessed with the fact that my venues don't take a lot of resources, or the resources are already there that I don't need to go gather from other people. So that's helpful on my end. But yeah, so that's a talking point that we're still going to be working on for a while.
Alan, one of the questions I had is, can we do a road race calendar meeting sometime September and October and not in January, so we can kind of lay out on the season and avoid conflicts with each other?
Sure. We can always talk about it. Yeah, because I think we started soliciting races this year in late November, early December, and I was looking to do that a bit earlier. So yeah, I don't see why we couldn't do that.
Yeah, your questionnaire definitely helped.
Yeah, we can put that out a little earlier. So okay. So again, just again looking through the. Okay, Ben, welcome. Go ahead and unmute and Let me know what you had in mind there.
Hi, yeah, we're all talking about different ways to put on races, and I just wanted to offer some perspective for everyone where we have the opposite problem, where we have a lot of manpower. I'm here representing the Eastern Collegiate Cycling Conference. They're bringing more staff to make races happen. And before I was brought on, the staff decided they were going to ask the students to make the races happen because the students were asking for races. And we thought, well, there are about 200 people, racers from the student side. So why not ask them to do races? And on the mountain bike side, we're transitioning and it's going to work well, but we're talking about road races here mostly. And they don't know what they're doing is the brief answer. They're busy being students. They're about 20 years old. And that's something where I'm trying to do it on my side, but obviously I'm not as good as somebody who's been doing this for 20, 30 years, is guiding them with the first step to do something. Because a lot of them, they have no idea what the first step is or what it entails. And to give an idea, we obviously would like to field a full 2-month season. We can't. We're actually partnering with Matt for the Frozen Four to piggyback off of your series. Thank you very much, Matt, for that. And the rest of the races, to give an idea for road racing, a lot of these races have been around forever, so they're going off of their own momentum. We're trying to get 2 races start up from nothing that effectively did not exist until January. So for everybody that's trying to think of like, how does all of this come together, and why does people do it this way? I just wanted to offer what we have on our side is, yeah, it really, some of it is both last second and some of it is we have the manpower, but yeah, we need more guidance or more bodies to spread the guidance.
Yep.
I speak to that.
Go for it.
This is Richard. I'm just looking around at the hairlines and the colors of people's beards on this call. And I'm really enthused by Ben's comments. It sure does seem like we're in a position to create a NEBRA edition of like the Service Corps of Retired Executives, what they call SCORE. I, for one, would welcome the opportunity to pick an event. I don't have to get too far off my couch or get too wet or cold or, but just to help a collegiate race or I think there's a lot of experience here. And I would like to, I just was enthused to hear that you got 200 people want to put on a race, but they have no idea what they're doing. And it's just an interesting, it's a happy problem to have if we could just, bring some expertise together.
I would love to just give one more layer to that, because that was a thought that we had, that it's like, oh, let's just tell them how to do it. And it's not a lack of, like, we have Zoom, like the fact we can all get here and do it this way, it's a huge improvement. So I offered something similar on the other side, and I advertised it as office hours, as, oh, come and join us, like, let me answer any questions that you have. But to just give an idea of where people are coming from, nobody has offered to attend those office hours. Actually, that's one team has offered to do that because they're coming from a place of we really are not sure about anything. And a little bit of the feedback we've been getting back, it's very, very bare bones basic racing stuff, not even putting on races, just being comfortable to attend a race. So it's an idea of this mentorship, which I think we've talked a little bit back and forth across different NEBRA promoter meetings over the years. And that might be something to think about, especially because I think in the chat, there was a point in there that was asking about what happened to the Quabbin race. I think most of us can say right here, it's Mike Norton was the former Quabbin director. So if you wanted to get a head start and make that race happen, give him a call. He's probably still teaching in the area.
Yeah. I'd be happy to help.
Cool. Keep that in mind. Thank you, Richard.
So floor is open at this point. If anybody has some general comments or questions they want to ask, since everybody's on here, if someone wants to speak of something, we can take a few minutes. We have Aaron. See you up there.
Yeah, hi. So, oops. I gotta move my microphone. Yeah, sorry, I kind of jumped on a little bit later. But so right now I'm dealing with managing the Mount Washington Auto Road Bicycle Hill Climb, and looking at your graph there, Alan, where most of our registrants are in the masters world, which is fantastic. We've been trying to boost junior and women, and we did offer a non-binary category, but nobody registered in 2023, and we had 2 folks in 2022. But what I was doing, because that race feels so fast, I was trying to increase the demographic a little bit, and I set it up so that I would have a certain block of spots left available for women, non-binary athletes, and junior women. Didn't really move the needle at all. We kind of float around 9 to 10% of women register for this event. And, I guess this is just a call out. If anybody has any ideas, I'm toying with not doing that again, just because it hasn't delivered anything. And it just is really confusing in Bike Reg, the way it's all set up. But I want to make it available. I think, trying for some women that register, they're there every year, but I feel like it is kind of a momentum builder. And by the time people start thinking about this event, it's July and it's sold out. So I want to find a way that is fair to leave spots available, but, kind of reduce the confusion. So one thing I was doing was thinking of just reducing the number of available registration spots by 75, and then prioritizing women off the wait list if I have to for the first 30 days reg is available, and then after that it's all bets are off. But I'd love to hear any help, or hey, you should email this group, or this pro cyclist is really supportive. I really would like to get more than 9% women on Mount Washington. So that's it. Just a call for help.
Aaron, I suggest maybe have 2 separate registrations on Bike Reg, say Bike Reg for men, Bike Reg for women, or whatever categories you want to do, and put the limit there. So when that category fills up, it fills up, but your other wouldn't be filled up. I don't know if that's possible, but that might be something to look into.
Yeah, we did that. So we had, I limited the number in like the general category, but then I had 75 spots dedicated for women and non-binary, and then said on April 30th, I was removing that category and I would move any available spots. So women essentially had 2 months to register. And then on April 30th, whatever was available, I moved the next batch of whomever was on the wait list, which, certainly a lot of the men were very excited that we're already on the wait list, but because we have multiple tracks, and if anybody on Bike Reg is on this call, they've seen my registration. So I was trying to figure out a way to I want to scream from the rooftops that we want women, but they're not showing up. But thank you, Ed. I'll take that. I'll look at our registration a little bit closer.
All right, Brian, you had your hand up. Did you have some comments about whatever is talking about there? Or?
Yeah, I was going to recommend connecting with Laura Summers and Kim DeBoard with the CTWBRI, which is the Connecticut Women's Bike Racing Initiative. They've had some ebbs and flows, and they've done a bunch of different things, partnered with different promoters and trying to bring women into the sport and into racing. And they might just be someone to bounce ideas off of and maybe learn from and chat with.
Great, thanks, Brian. CTWBRI, right?
Yeah, I can connect you with them as well.
Okay.
Yeah, Laura's actually on the call.
Okay. Yep, I see her.
There you go.
Laura, I'll put my email in the chat if you have any ideas, definitely.
I don't really have any ideas, but we can definitely talk about it. We are working with a really large Facebook group in the well, it's kind of all over the country, but it's Women on Wheels that a woman in Connecticut has been running, and it's women who ride, don't necessarily race, So that might be actually a great place to get some new women to try. So we can definitely talk with them, and I can connect you with them.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And we're trying, we're working on some sort of outreach or an article, because what's really kind of crazy about the Mount Washington race now, the bike race, is it's entirely run by women. There's, we had a group photo at the end of our canceled event last summer of all the people who really are were the decision makers. And I'm like, wow, that's 5 like really strong, awesome women. Like, how come women, like, by women for women, like, show up? And so we're trying to get that word out that, I don't know if it makes a difference, but I think women do like to support women run events as well, because there's so few of us to begin with. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of trying to find new strings to pull to try to move that needle just a tiny little bit.
All right. So Ben Kramer, you had your hand raised again. Did you want to make a comment to Aaron here? Or?
Yeah. First of all, how you doing, Aaron?
Hi, Ben.
Hi. So I don't know when you jumped on the call, but one thing we were chatting about is I'm helping out with the Eastern Collegiate Cycling Conference. And we've talked with some of the student leadership that are women, and they're expressing the frustration on getting people into racing. And one of the things that they've requested is just more help getting to the start line. And some of it is this is the funniest example that I can think of is she requested a social media post or a TikTok about how to bring your bike to the bike race. Like, how do you set up a car rack or put multiple bikes in the car? Like, it's something that we can laugh at and we can say that's really simple. But I've been to your event, and I can say that getting to northern New Hampshire at that time of year or not that time of year, at that time of day is very daunting.
Yeah.
So I'll send a follow-up email, because I do have like a lot of women racers that would love to race at Mount Washington, and some of it is they just don't know. I also know that I'd be curious. So yeah, basically it's just offering more information, help to get there. And I'm sure there is some information out there, and maybe it just needs to be an Instagram post or whatever people are interested in these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, sorry to cut you off, but
No, it's all good.
I mean, you were there with me, and it's a very logistically complex event as well, which I think can be a deterrent for especially a junior, because if their parents aren't familiar with the event, they just don't know what to do, or their parents are just frazzled. Certainly having experience is a huge piece of that event. Just knowing what to do and how to have support and what they need at the summit is a huge part of it. So Ben, let's chat offline too.
Yep. Okay, thank you. And on a related note, for what we're talking about, which again is a little bit of guiding experience and giving it to people, because people clearly want to race bikes, is do we have a vehicle for that? We have this call once a year. And I don't know if anybody has an idea on how they spread their information out. The Eastern Collegiate Cycling Conference uses a massive Discord group. It's basically an online web message forum, and I would not recommend it, because the usage for that seems to be dropping off a bit. Like, it's good and it's active and it's still used, but I was looking through its usage of it and it's dropped off considerably. So I don't know if people were using Slack again or something else to tell everybody to get to the bike races.
Okay, so floor is still open. Anybody want to have any comments or want to speak of something? Okay.
Alan, sorry to interrupt. I had to unmute myself.
Okay, Adam, thank you.
Do you want to? I have a little bit of cyclocross thoughts that I would love to share, but I don't know if we want to, is there going to be a separate cyclocross meeting? Is this I don't want to keep people here if they're not interested in crosstalk.
No, I think it'll be fine. Yeah.
I've been trying to write these thoughts down, and I thought while we have everybody here, it's just good to share for a second. I will do my best to keep it as brief as possible, but hopefully people saw Colin Reuter's post about courses. He wrote a blog entry this fall just talking about like course design and good course design, and in lieu of that kind of stuff coming from USA Cycling, it was really helpful, and that blog post came out of a lot of conversations that he and I have been having privately. And one of the things that we are observing right now is, we're in this downturn on road and cross. That's partially pandemic related, but we know it started before the pandemic, and we can point to gravel, but it's not really just about gravel. And we don't want to just say, blame it on that, because we should be seeing the growth of gravel turn into more road racers and more cyclocrossers. There should be an echo effect from that, and it's starting to happen. But what has gotten lost, and I think we're experiencing it on this call, it's why I thought it was good to mention it, is there has been a turnover, let's call it pre and post pandemic, because that does feel like the turning point of institutional knowledge. Promoters have gone away, the sport has contracted. There aren't just fewer racers, there are fewer organizers, and we're seeing some growth, but a lot of that growth you're seeing is like, Alan, you're putting on a bunch of races. Colin put on so many races this year. So I am seeing some organizers doing double duty or triple duty or quadruple duty, which is good and helpful and helps that growth for sure, but also puts us in a rough spot, because like, Alan, if you decide to stop, we lose 4 or 5 races, right? And so it's already been mentioned how much, like, there's a before and after with the club obligation to organizing an event and the attempt at USA Cycling to professionalize race organization. And that's part of why they got rid of that restriction on the clubs. But we're back. For those of us who've been here for a bunch of cycles and who remember grassroots road racing when there was a Putney road race. And I mean, it's good to talk about this missing races and road races we lost, because it really goes back a lot. And now that we have, ways to document those courses, GPS, things like that, it's a good time to talk about those old races that used to exist and whether those courses could be brought back. Greenfield road race. I mean, I could go on and on. But to bring that back around to Colin's blog post, it's about this institutional knowledge that has gone away. And where I'm seeing that also in cross is the end of the New England Cross Series and having 8 UCI races a weekend and at least 2 races every weekend. What I didn't anticipate is losing those races impacted all of the races, because everybody participated in those races. And so even the local races had knowledge that they acquired from competing in these high level events throughout the season. So I experienced this where smaller races in New England were of the production level of big races in other places. So I've gotten to race some cross races in Seattle this year and seen what those events are doing out there that are getting 1,000 racers again, and their production level is about the same as a local New England race. We don't have the time on this call to talk about what I learned from observing what they're doing for those turnouts, but it was educational for me. And I feel like I brought a lot back from that we can use to improve what we're doing here. One of the things I'm trying to figure out what I can do and what we can do as a whole to make sure that the knowledge that was being shared through experience, because of the number of events that we had and the number of big events we had, doesn't get lost. Because what I'm observing is the local races right now are not meeting the standard of what the local races had been meeting previously when we had more big events. And in particular, what I'm seeing is like 45-minute elite races. Weird things that are like, I'm seeing a lot of shortcuts. I'm seeing low production level. I'm seeing shortcuts in scheduling. I'm seeing bad categorization of events that look like things that we did 20 years ago or 30 years ago and no longer do because we've already improved on. I see a regression. There's a regression because there's a lack of institutional knowledge. And I feel a little bit of a responsibility and obligation as a holder of some of that institutional knowledge to help in aside from just running the one race that I run. Running Northampton this year, even as a not as a UCI event, but running it at the same production level, I got so many strange questions from racers who had never experienced a race structured the way Northampton was. They were surprised to see a 30-minute 4-5 race, whereas the standard has always been A's race for an hour and B's race for 45 minutes and C's race for 30 minutes. And you've got to have a short race for beginners and something for them to aspire to, to upgrade, to get to do more, a higher quality race, things like that. So I don't expect that to happen on the call now. I want to use that as a prologue to something else that I think should happen next. And, of course, I want to see road racing thrive. I personally like participating in criteriums and cyclocross most. And also as the organizer of New England Crit Week now, that doesn't exist because I don't have the races to run it. I can't run a series without races. New England Cyclocross Series, the same thing. I can't run a series without races. So part of the growth that we're seeing right now in the back of my mind is like, those are the things that I want to see come back. But we are back to like true grassroots racing right now, where the smallest races are important. And I want to see them. I mean, I went to Fatty Cross last week. I got up at 5 a.m. with my kid to drive to a cyclocross race 2.5 hours away in 15-degree temperatures because I felt obligated to be there and to support it. So, I think I can leave it there as a seed that I'd like to plant. I'm not 100% sure what the next step is. Maybe I can volunteer some time to organize a cross organizers meeting. I don't mean to impose my view of how things should go on everyone. I really just want to be a resource, and I don't want the knowledge or the experience to sort of end with me when I see all these new races coming up. And I think Richard probably feels this way as well. It's Groundhog Day for us. I just don't want to watch people make the same mistakes over and over again. I want to be open to new ideas. I want to learn from the folks who are coming up who might have a fresh perspective. But I do want to keep people from making mistakes that I've already either made myself or watched other people make, and that we've sort of solved already because they're new and they don't have the institutional knowledge that would accelerate the growth of their events or their experience as organizers. I'll leave it there, and maybe that's something that could happen.
Yeah, I definitely would love that to happen. So let's keep talking about it for sure.
I know there's a couple hands up, so
have to end here. Anyway, JK, you had your hand raised. Do you want to make a comment there?
Yeah, Fatty Cross was worth the drive, though, wasn't it, Adam? We had fun out there.
I am very glad I went. I'm gonna go to the next one. I had a much better time than I even expected, despite the temps. And I think it's really important that even small races, you put a lot of effort into making that happen. And the small races matter right now. And when we have fewer big races to do, the small races are where you go to remember why you like bike racing. It didn't matter that I was in a small race. I was doing my best, trying my hardest, ripping the turns like it was a World Cup. It didn't matter. And so maybe I'll share that with everybody. Like, it doesn't matter that it's February or January or you think cross is over. If you've got a workout to do that day, just go drive down and support the race. It was a really good time. And I think the next one promises to be probably muddy and not icy. Maybe better.
It looks like it, but we're gonna try to avoid this super thick mud. Anybody that's on this call, if you want to come to Fatty Cross, we can hook you up. Just send me an email after this.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Ben, you had your hand raised again.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm seeing it a lot in the chat, but I do want to echo that a cyclocross promoters meeting for NEBRA, I would love to attend that and all any extra information. The ECCC typically piggybacks off of races, but we're looking into hosting our own in some way. But looping back to what Adam is talking about, and it's starting to become more of a theme of getting that knowledge and moving it forward. Some perspective that I just want to share is the ECCC was approached by NEBC because they're sort of running into a similar situation of we have a lot of knowledge, we have a lot of racers, we have a fund, but they don't promote an event, but they're more concerned about the fact that they can't get new people to join. So we had a couple of talks and interviews, and one thing that we're doing is we suggested these are the things that if you are a collegiate racer that you'd want to see to join a team, to be willing to get out and race more, especially after college, because that's the guiding thing that we have for all of our events is people just want to get together on the weekends with their friends and race bikes. So as long as that's a tier 2, it's good. And there is this big gap after college to do that. So for people that are part of teams and groups, that's NEBC is trying to address it that way by making it more enticing for people to join. And we really like their approach they're going for. And I'd be curious if there'd be other methods to get all kinds of people racing, because as much as I like the NEBC method, and they have a very minimal application. They just want to say, do you like racing? And have you done races before? And they'll offer to reimburse some races. You'll get a discount on clothing as well. And they offer also group ride time, just camaraderie. And if anyone else had anything to offer like that to get people to join, also, again, speaking for the ECCC, if you had anything like that already existing, please send it our way. And we would love to advertise it to get people to join your team. And maybe they'll want to put on a race because they're so excited.
All right, Stephanie.
I just wanted to kind of connect with Ben there, saying that from B2C2, we used to have a really strong, sorry, I'm on the trainer if it's windy, a really strong collegiate pipeline to us, and that seems to have dried up. So if you do have any racers in the Boston area who kind of want to ride with folks who, know about racing or whatever, like definitely connect with me. And we're always happy to kind of like have them come out for a group ride or kind of be a home for folks after they graduate if they're still in the area. So just throwing that out as we're definitely a resource there.
Thank you for that. And we are going to be meeting with the student leadership in a couple of weeks, sometime in the month of February. And we are going to ask them what are the things that they're looking for to join a team or to be interested in racing bikes further. So yes, we'll do.
Yeah, that's great. And if there's anything, that list of like what they're looking for, like send it over because there could be something that we're missing. So we're not getting those skills. So yeah, keep us involved.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else?
Sorry, Alan, this is Mitch.
Oh, hey,
I tried raising my hand there and it seemed to have gone away. I mean, the recurring theme here, whether you're talking about the collegians, so the collegians are experiencing a very compressed timeline. They get 4 or 5 years at most continuity. If you're lucky, you got a freshman racer and they learn the ropes and maybe they can be a leader at the end of 4 years and then they're gone. They're out of collegiate racing. That's an accelerated thing of what I've experienced with the 2 clubs I'm associated with, which is over a decade or more, the COVID and aging, the club members just aren't interested anymore. And I'm tired of being a one-man band. And so how do we feed that pipeline? How do we get new people to take up wanting to run an event? I would be happy to mentor someone and even put up the money to put on an event at Ninigret because I know it like the back of my hand, but I just can't bring myself to do it myself anymore from scratch. And my club isn't behind me anymore and even supporting it. So how do we get people in? That's the key thing. How do we get new promoters? We've always argued about how do you get more people racing? Well, you want to get more people racing, you got to get more race promoters. You got to get more officials. That's the choke point, right?
Yeah, Nick, actually a good question that I just want to quick reply back to that is, I think that happened last year. I didn't show up to it, but I think the University of Rhode Island hosted a crit at Ninigret last spring. And I believe his name was Marcus Orr. I don't have his contact information, but I'd love to get him in touch with you, where he did not come to us to offer to put forward a race this spring. And we'd love to know why.
I've known Marcus since he was a dweeby little teenager, and the reason he puts on really good races is that he's been under Amos Brumble's wing since he was about 12 years old. So he has he's had a unique education in bike racing. There's not a lot of other kids who get the kind of mentoring that Amos gave to Marcus.
Yeah, and Ben, we can talk offline about the URI weekend from last year. So
right, yeah,
and we can discuss that later. So I've got some info for you.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So we're getting close to around the 5 o'clock mark, and I know that we wanted to keep it in a couple hours. I'll just say if anybody wants to have something that they want to talk about, I don't want to say no to that, but I'd also like to start getting things wrapped up here. So speak now or forever hold your peace.
Should we talk about Dick Ring for a second?
Oh yeah.
Bless that man.
Yeah, I don't know that there's that much to talk about. I assume everybody's heard by now that Dick passed this week, and they've announced the wake and services for next week. The wake is on Monday and the funeral services are on Tuesday, but I feel like we can't have a New England organizers meeting without acknowledging Dick.
Yep.
Connor?
Yeah, sorry, seems bad timing to bring it up there. Adam sort of put the closing comment on it.
Sorry,
has NEBRA thought about like getting out to some of the races? Like Wells Ave is a great community race, and promoting or looking for the next race promoters. There's a lot of 20-somethings, 30-somethings that are, more stable than college kids who are passing through a stage of life. That maybe that's where we'll find the next promoters.
Definitely will consider it, Connor. Definitely will consider it.
I would like to say, Al, that Connor did a great job for us this year. He's putting on a Saturday race the second week, and he didn't do it on a Sunday because he knew the Frozen Four was running on Sunday. So I told him the first week I'm going to be talking up his race, and we're going to try and generate some interest there. But honors to Connor for that.
Okay, Ed?
Yeah, I just put the link to Dick Ring's obituary in there. That if you go there, it'll have all the information on when the funeral is, which I believe is Tuesday. The wake is on Monday, and not this week, the following week. So go into the chat and you'll find the link there.
Okay, Ben.
If we got time for it, I did have a call with the new director of collegiate cycling at USA Cycling, and whether or not they're good ideas, I'd like to share what Nat Ross talked about with us, so that way people have an idea of what USA Cycling is thinking.
Okay.
And the brief answer is they are trying to bring in more disciplines into the bike racing opportunity. They had a call with everybody everywhere, and all regions of the US have a different structure at which they host their collegiate races. But basically, Nat Ross used to be with NICA, and Nat used his connection with NICA to negotiate and ask. And we thought that what he got was insufficient and not great. But basically, he was asking all the collegiate directors to put forward a criteria for qualifying and attending a gravel and esports nationals. Those exist a little bit in some way already. Like I think last year was the first gravel nationals for USA Cycling. I don't know if there's been one for esports yet. And I think they just released a championship calendar, USA Cycling. And some of it's problematic, but it's besides the point because it's what USA Cycling is thinking. That's what the next generation of racers that are juniors that want to go to college, that want to then keep bike racing after college, think that they'd like to do. And that's something where this meeting traditionally, it usually talks a lot about road. And the sheer fact that we're talking about having other promoter meetings at different times of the year about cyclocross, that's great. It perhaps is a couple of years late, but better late than never. And it's something that is NEBRA interested at all in eventually saying like, all right, here are the guidelines to maybe not as a full race season, like the way cyclocross is, but to nurture and guide just more people enjoying time on bikes together. If it's gravel, or maybe I think Boston the other day did like Zwift sprint races of some kind.
Connor, yeah. So Ben, we'll talk. You know, we've got some things to talk about. So I want to.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I got nothing more. Sorry, I hadn't.
Okay, that's all right. Okay. All right. So again, so the only other thing I want to mention to all of you is that so we're having our annual meeting on Saturday on the 3rd at 4 o'clock. And you know, so just so folks will know, if you are a current race director listed on the 2024 calendar, you are automatically a member of this organization. And then there's also a way which memberships can be purchased at $25 for the year. If you are based in the 6 New England states and if you're part of a club, you can that may not be necessarily putting on an event, but if you're still a New England club, you can sign up to join NEBRA. And so I want to offer that opportunity to attend that meeting. And again, it's Saturday at 4 p.m. There's a link on Bike Reg. So you go look it up. Just look up, NEBRA annual meeting, and it'll pop up. And we'd like to have all of you available on Saturday for the call. We'll be basically got a couple of people that are getting reelected to the board, including myself. That we need to take a vote on that, and also just there'll be more of a outline financial situation with NEBRA and the health of it or not, and also a couple of other things. So the agenda will be out sometime this week. So anyway, just wanted to highlight that. Like I said, for members that can vote, and also if you're interested in becoming a member of NEBRA, you can go to that link and sign up. So with that, that'll conclude our meeting for today. And again, thank you so much for everybody for coming on board and talking. There was a lot of good conversation in here, and I've got a lot to process over the next few days. So if you don't hear from me right away, don't worry. I'm going to be going through all this information over the next few days and making some contacts and talking to a lot of you about how we can improve the racing in general, both road, cross, and whatever else we have here in New England. So again, thanks so much for everybody's time. And then if you have to think of something afterwards, all you can do, you can ping me at aatwood@nebra.us. That's my email for the NEBRA board, and more than happy to talk to you. So anyway, thanks a lot, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thanks, Alan.
Good to see everyone. Thank you.